This is your weekend market recap for Saturday, December 17th, 2022. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent, and this is your weekend market recap for December 17th, 2022. Saturday morning, let's get into it. Get a coffee, get a snack, and let's dig into the charts. Hopefully you survived this week. It was pretty wild, up and down, as you might figure, with OPEX, CPI, and an FOMC meeting. Hopefully people kept perspective on that. Talked about all week how this week in general was probably going to be sloppy, choppy, and it was going to be one of those weeks where you had to be prepared to trade. You had to be humble, and you had to be ready to stick to your plan, your discipline, your risk profiles. I think a lot of people in the Discord room did pretty well or were able to seize upon that, but understand it's pretty hard. The average person probably got spun around sideways, confused here and there, which it totally makes sense. So we'll get into what we're thinking for the week. Please be thoughtful, be smart. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the like bell or like button, notification bell, always helpful. I will be doing probably a live chat at some point, maybe Sunday night, depending on time. But in general, let's get into it. We have a short week coming up next week in the sense that it's the holiday week. I'm pretty sure we close early on Friday. I could be wrong. Either way, this is what I want people to understand. It is going to be a light volume week. Light volume means what? Easily manipulated stock action potentially. You can get swings up and down on light volume because, again, there's not a lot of liquidity. That's going to help make the moves exacerbate if you get more down, more up, or intraday kind of, I would say, opening and closing moves. So just be thoughtful of that. I know a lot of people who are newer don't really pay attention to sometimes what's going on, like seasonality wise. So I want to talk about that. Just keep in mind, next week is typically the start of some sort of Santa Claus rally into the end of the year, potentially. Sometimes there can be a little hangover at the end of the year, and then the January effect, which is new money that comes in because of money being put into the market because of IRAs, 401ks, investments, new year, new money, tax loss selling early in the year. They're waiting for 2022 to end. Whole bunch of little things that play into this. And the Stock Traders Almanac, as you can see next week, Monday says on Chanukah is bearish, but then you have bullish days on Wednesday and Thursday. Be thoughtful. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk more about the plans as we get into this. And if you're new to the channel, you want to get into the Discord room, hit me up on Twitter. Please don't be scared to share your story. Again, the Discord room, I'm continuously trying to cut people out of it. And got a lot of people who are mad that, hey, I've been sick or I haven't been around. And it's like, hey, if you're not in the blue check mark, you haven't been involved, you haven't really done too much into the channel. And I apologize if you've been inactive and you got kicked out. But again, this room isn't meant to be for folks who are just lingering and not really hanging, getting involved, because that's the goal, to help those people out. And if you don't need that, then you can follow on Twitter. You can follow on social media. I'm pretty transparent, trying to post this everything that we're up to. So on that note, speaking of Twitter, here you go. Follow. Again, constantly trying to keep people updated with what we're up to. Not easy. Remember, keep in mind as we get into this, what we have going on next week as well. You have budget talks, and I've said this many times. Again, check out the educational trading videos. I think they'll be pretty helpful. We have budget talks next week, and one of those things that I think people need to pay attention to is that I want to call her the Queen, Nancy Pelosi of trading, and her husband Paul have Nancy started laying out some terms for the budget for 2023. Typically, when you see the market drop and then you see the positioning of each party with what they want, that's really the start of the negotiation and the end of the insecurity. Now, yes, can there be negotiation potentials where they're like, no, change mine or this? Yes, but usually now we're locking in. And as I've said, in how Congress has rigged taking advantage of market volatility, they typically like to see the market. Now, again, usually they're not really shorting. They like to see the market drop, and they'll talk about, they'll kind of go radio silent, or a few like junior members will say some things, but then it becomes like Nancy and Mitch and Chuck Schumer, and then the big dogs really start talking, and that's when you get closer to negotiation, because that means they're willing to actually dialogue. So be aware of that. That's I think the 23rd is the next omnibus, whatever, push the can down the road to make a decision. I guarantee at some point next week, the market should and will rally based on the fact that they're going to get something done going in 2023. Again, these guys want to get paid. They're, as much as they hate working together, but when it comes down to the budgets and spending money and making sure that the government doesn't shut down, it's not really into their favor. Now, I used to have congressmen who didn't care about that, but now, I hate to say it, 2 flavors of crap ice cream. Just one's red, one's blue. People see it differently, but I follow the money. I follow their actions. A lot of people follow their words, and they're usually pretty empty. And keep in mind, a lot of these folks talk for the cameras, and what they do is what matters to me. Bitcoin, head and shoulders bottom. People called for it, talked about a bounce, said this is dead money, said this for a while, need to get up to the trend line and break it. Left-right combo, up, doji, big red. I said this on Friday. I hope I posted a tweet on it, but I said the biggest concern right to me in the market is if Bitcoin gets murdered near term, because I think some of the tech names could reflect that kind of pain. Potentially, say like Tesla, some of the semiconductors, even though they held up, not necessarily Tesla, but it's holding 150. But we'll go into that. Just that's my biggest concern here. I don't have a good read on up or down in the sense of the big moves. I think you can see like the chop, and we talked this pattern, left right combo potential brings you right back down to the 16s. If it breaks, that's going to be a problem for Bitcoin. Again, personally, if you bought down here, know your stops. If you're short and you've been short, I doubt there's many people that have been, but if you have been, is there much juice to squeeze out of the orange at this point? I don't know. Oil, as we talked about, trying to get down in the mid-60s. Some news that's going to be that, again, not 99% of the news is just noise. However, there was a headline on Friday that stuck in my ear that we're restarting SPR refill purchases. And I think we bought, and don't quote me on this specifically, February or March contracts in oil to start refilling. That is going to put a floor under oil prices. Now, keep in mind, we'd like to see support in yellow, but 76 area has been major support resistance for a while, if you're not familiar. Hanging around here would not surprise me. I still think at some point oil rallies big. And if it doesn't, then that means the recession and the VIX spike and the next wipeout, hopefully, to get this bear market is over. If not, I've warned people this, and I'll warn them again. We could be in this chop cycle like the 1970s stagflation, where commodities tend to lead, certain sectors will lag, and the market in itself is range bound. That's not what traders want to hear, but that's the reality you have to be aware of. Nat gas, talk about it hitting this trend line, backing off, holding here. Heroes who are trading natural gas, congratulations. I mean, if I would have bought down here, I would trade around it, but I'd also have in my mind that I just don't want to watch day to day. I would probably add the dips and sell the rips and trade around it. The Widowmaker, we'll see. I mean, it looks very like reminiscent of this action where you didn't get the like real bottom until March. Look at this. I mean, it feels very similar. I was just thinking of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like in his movie he did with Lou Ferrigno back in the day when he's filming himself. It feels like it's coming. It's coming. It's going nowhere. Every day. We'll see. that's the problem here with natural gas at these points. I mean, Freeport LNG plant was reopening. We know that. Is there a big build in inventory from that, at least stateside? Zadala, make ya holla. As we talked about up here, probably going lower. This was a ominous signal. Talked about this potentially being like, again, now there's a lot of gaps in the dollar. Novice gapish, getting closer to the lows. Here you go, holding the range lows. You're welcome. We draw these levels so that you can draw them yourself. You know this stuff. You don't have to just watch only the recaps. You can sing along. No, you can draw along as we do this, and you can see the levels. And so 200-day, we called for that a long time ago. We got it. We bounced. We broke below it. Now, remember, we talked about tendencies breaking to be confusing in the market. But if you knew the zones that mattered, look, they matter. So now what? Under the 200-day, compressing with a 20-day coming down. Not too concerned about the dollar near term, just unless it starts getting velocity up. If it chops, stability in the dollar doesn't bother me too much. Same thing with the bond market. Stabilizing here, holding in this 107 to say 110 range approximately. It's more like 109, high 109s. But as you can see, it's a big volume at price node. As long as it holds here, I don't think it's that big of a deal for the market. If bonds get bought and rally hard and the market dumps, you got an issue. If the bond market stabilizes, maybe even gets sold a little bit, but markets should tend to rise if the data, I'd say more like if the seasonality plays out. Because remember, it's a midterm year, people buy it, yada, yada. I mean, there's so many tendencies. Hit me up if you want to see that chart or in the Discord room. I know people keep dropping. I know Sonny's got it probably on his, saved on his phone somewhere. VIX. People so confused, right? Like the market unwinding and the VIX holding. Now we've said that's not not unnormal. Sorry, it's pretty normal. Like when the VIX bottoms, it can chop out. Hence why people who buy the UVXY on the first bottom, I just want to say a prayer for them because UVXY sucks. A lot of those leveraged VIX funds, they're good when they work and they're terrible to hold. So is the VIX about to rip? Well, we talked about like, could it super spike into the 25s? You got it. Well, now look what it's doing. It's like compressing under the 23 area. As a bull who's got some long positions buying these dips, am I confident that the market has to rise next week? I can't say that for sure, but I'd say if we get over this 24 area, I'm going to be a little more conscious of the fact that, all right, the VIX could take off because it could be just like this basing here and go. I still think at some point you get back into low 20s, 20 area, maybe even 19, upper 19s, but this is a probability-based game. Please draw the charts, think about it. I don't mind people asking me the questions, but you need to know the answers to this stuff. You need to be able to figure out how to come to a game plan because people think it's like they think they're looking for like omnipotence in the markets. They think they're looking for the person who's going to tell them how to be right all the time, and it's not. It's really not like that, y'all. It's like betting on sports games, and you can have all the great information in the world, and then the starting quarterback in the first quarter tears an ACL, Kyler Murray example, and then the game changes. Spread is, you know what I mean? You have to be willing to abort on your trade or observe the data and say, all right, well, maybe this is not going to happen. All right, well, if it's not going to happen, what am I going to do? Here, all right, I'm setting my stop, I'm gone. Or, hey, I don't like it, I'm just leaving. SPY did pretty good earlier in the week talking about what we thought was going to happen to perfection. I really wanted to see this candle flip to here and the other way close at the highs, but you don't get what you want. We thought we might rally into the FOMC CPI data. Here you go. We got it. We bought down here, sold it before the FOMC. What was it? Which day is this? Yeah. Played the trade, bought the dip, took a few, I think it was 5 points. Didn't short, sadly. Waited, got some dips, got stopped out, started buying back then because this is what I wanted, was down in here. And then Friday's action, a complete gap down and trap to the 0.382. Look at that. It's crazy how technical the market's acting if you draw on your freaking charts. I get a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't know. Now, again, to a T, remember that's why I don't bring a ruler to trading, but if zoomed out looking, it's pretty damn close. That's pretty damn perfect. Holds the gap, gets into the gap. Now, could it fill it at 379? Yeah, that's not ideal if I'm bullish. But the close on Friday, look at it. You have like equal size wicks and a red candle. What now? High volume naturally. Keep in mind, people are like, oh, I saw a lot of high volume on Friday. Well, of course they're going to have high volume because of the VIX. Major VIX. Remember, quarterly VIX expirations, there's a lot of options on the line. And if people have to exercise, or market makers have to exercise options to pay out, or people who sold options, same thing, have to exercise, they got to take on the inventory. So don't be surprised by higher inventories on a Friday. And also, too, it's a game for the market makers, right? They know, okay, you got to, if all these puts got bought. Because I remember earlier in the week, we were saying, oh, the pin action's 395 to 392 for the week. Oh, I think the pin action is 405 for the week. I'm telling you guys, take this pin action bullshit out of your mind and say, okay, I acknowledge it, but it's not always right. Because I've seen it. We don't know how the options game is changing within the spectrum of what the market makers are doing and how they're positioning. I used to spend, and again, starting in the late 90s, early 2000s and trading, we used to, when the options market was not as liquid, we tried to see what the pin action was because no one paid attention to it. And you actually had what I thought was a legitimate edge. And it just over time has gotten worse and worse and worse to the point where I'm like, I don't care about the pin action anymore. I acknowledge it, but I don't live by it. So hopefully this week maybe wakes you up to that fact. Because for example, one of Bob Builder posted 392. I'm trying to think of anywhere else. And again, it's not like call it in a bad way. It's just this is the data that they may have observed through the pin action. And it was like, close at the lows. That just is what it is. So anyway, learn, you live and you learn. All right, got some XPXL, got some SPX, SPY. All the calls that I have, if I do have calls for those particular, again, actually all my names, I have 113, 20, 23s. I don't have any near-dated stuff. Anticipating this bounce, trying to play the game. How high can it bounce now? This is where it gets a little tricky, right? It feels more like it could be a potential the 20-day, right? Maybe the 200-day. Remember 2021, I talked about this. You had this screaming nuclear, what at the time seemed pretty nuclear, because the market was in a bull market and everybody was like, oh, we only go higher. The market only goes higher. The market only goes higher. A couple days down with OPEX, bottomed on the 20th, 17th, the Monday following. 4 straight days up Santa rally. Look at now. Today's the 17th. 4 straight days down. Probably going to rally. Just be aware. Look what it did in 2021. This is what really screwed people up in a start of the bear market. Look, we made a new high. Then and only then did we get the slammer. Remember that new money came in. Market makers probably unloaded into them on the 4th. You had this little, or 5th, this little ominous, 4th, this little ominous candle. And then it just turned into wipe out. All right. And it went all the way into, all of January was just ugly. So at this point, be thoughtful. Be careful. At inflection points, if you got to stop out, don't have your ego saying, I can't do things if I'm wrong. No, if you're wrong, you're gone. QQQ held up, in a sense, slightly, in my opinion, better. Remember, because there's the gap. No, sorry, that's the gap. Man, it's hold on. QQQ has been lagging so badly. Let me just double check it. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. The gap from November. This one held better, actually, which is an interesting sign, right? Because we think And can we assume? I think so, that tax loss selling in tech happened in here. I told people that. I was like, it's such a crappy year. Once you start the fourth quarter, people are done. They're just done with tech. I mean, you open the year around, 400? They just capitulated. And so now that it's holding up, is that a sign for the market to hold up? Maybe. Again, this stuff is so oversold. I wouldn't be surprised if the same clowns come back into tech. IWM, we've talked about it lagging, did not make new highs with the S&P 500. Well, there it is. Well, look where it's holding, the 0.618, decent volume. Now what? I mean, again, trend lines. Let's see where they line up. People always say, oh, the trend line is the most important. I'm like, no. It's where the trend lines line up that usually is more important. Now, trend lines are important, but in the hierarchy of what's important, to me, trend lines are only as important as the number of times they touch it, right? Like the first or second time touching it doesn't really give you much validation. But then the more times something touches, I always warn people, then becomes a trap potentially. Got to hold down here at the 618. It wouldn't be surprised if the channel or the trend line and the 200-day line up. Maybe this fib. Low 180s. Put that in your book. Gold rallied. Not surprising after it pulled back pretty hard. We talked about like this gapping down and holding the support. Bounce back to the 200-day. Could gold rally until the end of the year? I mean, if the market holds up, this stuff doesn't surprise me if it would hold up either. Because again, there's a lot of like misunderstandings within gold. Can only go up when the dollar goes down. Can only go down when the dollar goes up. I mean, no, you've seen circumstances where it doesn't. Can it hold here? Because again, think about the dollar rallied Friday. Look what gold did. Right? Personally, leaving it alone until there's a bigger pullback. Could that be at a higher price? Maybe. I just don't trust it. Silver, starting to lag. Right? Gaps down. Doesn't really get over Thursday's high, right? Like gold did, correct? Like look at the big difference. You know, silver was leading up. Now silver is leading down because it's not acting as well. That's why I'm flipping back and forth, right? Gold in silver terms would probably be somewhere in the upper 21s. Close at 21.40. 37. Not that good. GDX should probably rally more, right? It didn't. It popped, got back to the 20-day. So at this point, I mean, I don't trust these names, but could they rally? I mean, could they play a chop top? Yeah, I mean, they had a chop bottom, chop top. Yeah, it's possible. GDXJ, same thing. Can't get under. It gap back or open, close at the high, but under the 20-day. Chop top, chop bottom. Yeah, it seems very likely, but here's the thing. The easy trade is over with this stuff. And that's the biggest concern I have for people who are over trading it. If you're shorting it, it makes kind of sense because names like AG, lagging, right? Silver's up near the highs. AG is not. Problem, red flag. AE, and again, this is why it's so easy. Just boom, boom, boom. AEM. Okay. This one's been acting better, holding the 20-day. That looks better. I don't like the deal they're doing, but whatever. Newmont, absolute garbage, right? Here's the biggest miner. Stays on the 20-day now. Keep in mind, there's probably some volume due to OPEX not making new highs. If Newmont's not rallying, I don't really trust the metals because Newmont is like the de facto, I mean, sad to say, like miner of the metals trade. Even though they can underperform, but if it's not looking good, you probably got to be concerned about metals. PAAS, 20-day. Chopping. I mean, these are all dead money. Moving on. AM Dizzle. Try to get this recap moving. We talked about this thing, 100-day, flopping. Again, I don't like AMD. I mean, this chart's just ugly. I mean, you surprised it got tax loss sold? See what happens when it gets down to the mid-60s. That's all I can really say. Man, Taiwan Semi really wanted to short this. Up near the 200-day, up near the mid-80s. Didn't get it. Woe is me. It's at range lows in the 100-day. Just watch that. Micron has earnings on Wednesday. That's so weird, right before Christmas. Micron might be bottoming down here. It goes from 64 down to 52. And this thing typically has been, obviously, an ugly as heck chart. All semis. I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe rallies, kind of like Adobe did, right? SMH. If you shorted this, congrats, up near the highs. It just looks really choppy, y'all. Back testing the trend line, holding under day. Now, again, can you short if it breaks that? I guess you could. I would just let the trade go and then wait for a bounce. Just like here, like we're waiting for a bounce. Someone said people say 243. I mean, yeah, that'd be a gift if it got there. But now you have to start thinking more about just getting back into the range. Maybe some sort of head and shoulders complex issue. Adobe earnings pop failed, closed near the low of the day. Not bullish, but not necessarily bearish either. You'd like to see it like collapse with the market and come right back and fill the gap. It didn't do that. So you need more information. I personally am not trading it. Apple, hanging on a whim, hanging on a prayer, whatever you want to call it. This 135 level is pretty damn important. Is it going to get dumped to end the year? I don't know. I think that's the end. I think we're hitting the peak tax loss selling. I'm telling you, just you want rally. If you're a bear, you want a rally because again, you want to get past where the money comes in, and then after that, it's a vacuum. Because then you have earnings in January, and if the economy is slowing and everything is bad, if you get through the early part of January, and then earnings comes out crappy, I mean, you're gonna have the easy recipe for a dumper. Does this make sense? You got to get through all this new money coming in because the market makers, what they want to absorb inventory at the lows and sell it at the highs. Amazon, I mean, just tax loss selling. I mean, but here's the thing: like, you look at the stock and you go, yeah, this is crap. But it's like, think about it from the bigger perspective. Like, why isn't it just absolutely murdering down? Just holding and chopping. We'll see what happens here. Need more information. CRM talked about this one being like, leave it off your. I mean, it's just hard. Going to be hard. Back at the lows, it has to hold. Google really wanted a higher price to short, didn't get it. Flagging, I mean, people are like, oh, it's a bullish flag. No, it's a bearish flag. It's a pride flag. I don't know. I mean, whatever. It's American flag. What? I don't know. Throw in the descriptor. This is tough. I mean, the gap is so close, but the gap is there. Yeah, these names, I mean, they're hard. Meta gets upgraded. TikTok going bye-bye in America. We'll see. It's holding up. I mean, I still think you might get that 130. Maybe even get the 100-day channel. That's always in the bottom. Back of my mind, not bottom. Microsoft, man, shiitake mushrooms. Really wanted to hit that up here. Waited because we thought the market could go a little higher and we could get the channel high. We didn't get it. Here you go. Drops 20 points. Damn. Big volume. Yep, I see it. Probably squared off positioning because of OPEX. Here you go. See what happens here. NDAQ. Had this short. Took the profits. Not excited that we did. Hoping, praying that it's like this action when it topped, it kind of rallied back to a lower high. If it didn't, if you're short it, hell yeah. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. If it's, remember how we talked about channels? Oh, the channel's about, no, break over. I'm telling you, sometimes that's the trap. I'm really hoping for that 70 area, because if we'd have gotten it, I would have, think of it like rounders, like all in, you know. Pay that miani. John Malkovich, great character. Poker movie. Yeah, damn. Gotta wait for bounces. If you're short, congrats. I mean, that's all I can say is kudos to you for having the ability just to let it ride. Let it ride. And it's always fun to be like, oh, you can't day trade. You can't swing trade in this market. It's like, shut up. You can absolutely swing trade. It's just some names work better than others. MicroStrategy said, watch what happens if it fills the gap. That's not pretty. Now, again, they're obviously going to be dealing with what happens with Bitcoin. Does MicroStrategy get margin called at some point? I mean, they put the pressure on Tesla. They absolutely put the pressure on Elon. We'll see what happens. Watch the 160s. Netflix. Damn Wells Fargo, you son of a bastards. Put the son of a... No, never mind. I'll shut up. We talked about wanting to wait for a pullback and then run up here. Well, Wells Fargo upgraded it, left it alone. You were like, oh, it's pulling back. Like, just let it be. Not interested. Now, if the market starts stabilizing, because remember, we talked about like buying stocks that look better. And we'll show you why I like certain ones with bigger references and potential action that was showing. It just didn't really have it in me because I'm like, oh man, it just broke the 20-day off the highs. It doesn't look that good. Now again, keep in mind, went from 210 to 330. That's a big move. So it's probably going to have a little more sellers than buyers at this point because it hasn't, like, this is fresh. Remember, time is our friend. Time was the friend, right? Then it could go. Well, time is not the friend so far. It's just pulled back. It's the first pullback. Could it get a bounce? Yeah, absolutely it should, but we don't know what reference point now. Like, it's once you broke the 20-day, it gets pretty hard. Speaking of things that we bought, roadblocks. Why? You had big references, right? We talked about watching the 30 level. Well, thank God it gapped down, and we said, all right, we'll see what happens with the market. Did not buy any on Thursday, and then on Friday, it was like, all right, filled the gap. I'll take a stab at this sucker. I mean, somebody's accumulating this down here. I don't know who. I don't know why. But my intention is, or my thought is, someone's going to buy this company out. Remember, kids are gambling on this stuff all day. Oh, man, it's such bad. Not gambling, but you know what I mean. It's addictive. But not going to fight it. Bought it in the 27s. Got some in like upper 26s. Nice close, right? Like, that's indecision. Like, you would think if the market's dumping and they wanted to take this lower, is this a novice gap? You ask? Now, again, keep in mind, like, coming off the lows, you can get choppy, right? You can get choppy, even with the novice gap. But look at the last time you had one. It rallied from 30 up to 39. So if you were watching this, trading this, observing this, whatever you want to say, I would put in your mind, like, all right, if you got into roadblocks, I'm writing this down for myself just to have another reference. I love writing everywhere. I mean, you could probably get back up to the 34 area. That, to me, would be like the quickest, easiest bounce. Does that make sense? Take your money if you get there. I mean, if that's a big rally. If it's quick and if the market goes higher and you want to hold some, trade around your position. But that seems likely 34. Always thought that. Tesla, 150s has to hold. Tesla's Elon sold stock. Not surprised. I'm telling you guys, like, this company is tremendously overvalued. How does it make new 52-week highs? But I told y'all in November of 2021, get the out. The easy money's done. No. This is going to be a $10 trillion company. I'm like, you idiots. At the highs, they upgrade the targets endlessly to get you to buy so they can unload and say goodbye. And they said goodbye as you were going, is it a good buy? So now what? Talked about you could trade this at the 150 area. I mean, I was watching intraday. I was like, oh, is it going to hold here, hold here? And it's like, I was like, oh, there it goes. And then when the market went down back towards 380, this came back down to 150. You're at a trend line. Be thoughtful. Trend lines matter. Yeah, we'll see. But also, fibs matter. And if you go look back on the monthly chart matters. Right? All this stuff. All right. Let's continue moving right along. X is a long video. I apologize. But it's the weekend. You got to dig deep. We talked about taking profits and it could pull back. Well, here you go. That they guided up on Friday. Hard to assume like the market and the recession's coming when these guys are guiding up. Reacted well. Again, signs that is it as bearish as it seems? Look at Nucor. Man, drops. They guided down. But their guidance, I think, was trying to like reflect some of the macro, what everyone else is saying, and because they've been good at this before, under promise, over deliver. That's not a bearish candle, in my opinion. Now, I know we talk about like position squaring on a Friday, but that's pretty solid volume. That's not just like slightly above average. That's pretty above volume, normal, right? All right, keep an eye on it. Like that one, put that in your box. VALE, pulling back. Now, again, these are all just trades in the beginning of the year. Holding the 20-day, could it run up to 17? You bet your ass. Copper. Again, why is copper holding up? All right, if the market and the world are about to blow up, why is copper holding up? Someone noticed that. I'm like, man, that's making a new high off the lows. Things that aren't bearish. CCJ, leave it alone. These uranium fools, I'm telling you, every day is not a good day. Every day that ends in Y is not the best day to probably buy uranium. Okay, chopping. It's going to be one of those things. It's going to be tough. I just don't even want to waste time. CF, we bought this on Thursday because of the strength. Well, guess what? Then the Friday confirms the strength. Makes a higher high, higher low. Is it high? I mean, it's like, well, technically yes, but let's just call it approximate. Looks good. And after pulling back, we stopped out of this, as you have to. Remember, this isn't going to be tax loss sold. This has been an absolute monster, if anything, this year. Starts the year around, 60s. It's in the 90s. That's a winner, not a loser. There you go. Pulls back. Like it. I mean, your stop is your entry now, or 92. Keep it simple. Mosaic, holding up. Again, market getting beat down. Look at this hammer. Someone's buying materials, it looks like, near term. NTR, Doji, same kind of thing. Doesn't look that bad. AA, talked about it having to hold 43, 44. Well, then the market dumped, and it's like, where's your line? All right, setting my alarm. Right here, I want to see that high volume candle retest. If it doesn't, then maybe it's even stronger than we think, and the market rallies. I still think you get back up into the 50 if the market holds up. I mean, it doesn't. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this is that the big boy's in at the bottom. Could this be like some sort of tax loss selling too for this? Because this is not as, what I'd say, I mean, it's not as high up in the charts, but it is a choppier, sloppier pattern, but it doesn't look like tech where it's just like adios, see you at the bottom. Keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens here. XBI, again, on the day when the market's down, chopping. Doesn't look that bad. Things that don't look terrible. XLF, oh, come on, baby. Really need to see this. I want to see up in the 35 area. Even the 200-day, see what happens. Get back over this. Got below it. Did not pull the trigger on buying it, obviously, but I want to see what happens here. Now it's back to the 100-day. I mean, decent amount of volume here. This pullback, tough to know, right? It's tough to know. You want to pretend like you know. You hope that it comes back to here. Now you have to play defense and play. All right, just watch for the 35 area. That's all I can say. I mean, I shorted Morgan Stanley at 95s, took it at 90, and then it just unloaded. All right, back to the range lows. Look what it did. Closed above and into like the back above the range lows. Could this be a bear trap near term to rally? Please. Please, 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 please. Please, 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 please. JP Morgan. I mean, again, remember, these banks are probably going to be doing pretty well. They fleeced their customers really well this quarter, and they're laying off people. Really want to see this 135 area. That's, again, wants versus gets. We'll see. Love to see some sort of lower high. Some sort of lower high rally. Keep it simple. Solar. Man, broke and rallied. I was watching this like indirectly today. I was like, damn, did I miss the solar trade? And it's like, so you're telling me there's a chance. Dumb and Dumber, y'all know. Wicks back. Uh-oh. Not completely bearish. Not bullish either. We'll see. ENPH chopping, holding around this. Held these lows. We'll see more. Again, all this stuff needs more information. That's all. It's just can't make a decision here. Love to see it retest up here in the 340s. This one's been acting better. First Solar getting added to the S&P 500. Imagine there's some volume today. Yep, look at that. Watch what happens when it gets up here. If it gets added, is it today the day that it got added? Again, I have to double check all this stuff. I mean, I'm not shorting it. I'm trading at the moment, so I haven't looked that deep, but I would watch what happens if the market rallies, because now it'll catch a little extra bid. HYG, just to throw that in there, corporate debt, we talk about this. It doesn't look as bad as the market. It's back here at old inflection points. I mean, I guess you can see the green, or all the way over here. I mean, it doesn't look that bad. That's all I'm going to say. It made new highs, right? Corporate debt. Like, why would corporate debt make new highs? Oil, again, I would start putting this back on the radar, but just keep in mind, it might be a trader's market with this stuff. We talk about it popping and flopping. I want to see oil lower in the market, higher near term, and see what happens. Keep in mind, ultimately, we want what we get. I I struggle with this because it's like, man, I thought this was going to be the bottom. It rallied, but then it's just like, boom, you're back below it. And there's some serious games being played in the oil market. It's going to be hard. So my biggest suggestion, like same thing with natural gas, like unless you're getting, now keep in mind this deteriorates. Remember how the UNG chart looks, or the nat gas chart looks way better? You have to trade around this one. You kind of have to trade the extremes. And when I say kind of have to, like, no, you definitely have to. You have to trade extremes. Like, it's just that simple, right? And at this point, if you're not, you're betting on a significant spike. And I hope it hits, but have some risk management. You know what I mean? Like, be thoughtful. At this point, UNG, again, you got to be dialed in on gas. I just don't have the bandwidth to pay attention to gas. But I don't mind setting some alerts, just like XOP. Like, I'm really hoping this thing gets down into the 129s, maybe this trend line area, because then it should rally. We'll get through, let's end this real quick. ExxonMobil holding doesn't look terrible. Now it's probably position squaring, not necessarily accumulation or distribution, just position squaring, but it's not breaking down. Oxy, where are you? Yeah, there you are. I'm like, did I really know? Makes new lows. Man, this is tough. XDiv, did it fill the gap? Yeah, it filled the gap here. Rallied. I mean, all these names, the stuff doesn't, this is not what, if the market was going to melt down, you need to see more weakness in this stuff, right? The Friday, I mean, I know the market was down. Remember, it was also XDiv on the SPY. As bad as it does look down, it's a little, you need more information. Now, again, does the market bottom on a Friday? Question mark. Hence why, again, if you should still have bullets to fire if needed. Always, never go all in. I'm telling you, always have some capital. Sometimes the craziest shit happens and it just turns into blessings. PXD, waiting for this, ripped our hearts out, not coming back to it until I see extremes. EQT, I guess I'll say it. People are talking about buying this. I'm like, man, these companies can't manage natural gas futures. No one can. They never sell high. They always hedge low. They're a bunch of clowns. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Trying to build out my Dan Max Realty website to tie into some more of the blog stuff. Got a deal under contract on Friday night. I'll rant on this for a second. We got, 2.5% seller concessions. We got multiple points bought down. I know people are complaining about price, that they worry about maybe the price is going significantly lower or the market's going to collapse. If you can lock in your rates under 5% because the seller's going to concede some of the cash at closing, I'm telling y'all, that's long-term thoughtfulness. Now, again, if you're trying to get rich in real estate on one property, maybe this is not the person you need to talk to, is me. I'm trying to set you up for the long term, and I'm so happy for this client because it's like you don't realize the deal you just got. You just don't realize it. Oh, I worry about the market. Yep, great. People always need a house. You bought in a great area. You got the sellers to concede big. Because, again, no one, and this is what I was saying, like no one wants to buy a house in the middle of the winter except for what? You and I, which is great. You're not competing against the host plethora of people trying to buy houses in the summer and the spring when they're moving with their families. Now, is it hard to rent a property potentially if closing this time of year? It can be. But here's the goal, the key. Like, know your risk, right? Like, know your market. Like, if you're looking at investment properties, like, all right, look at what the average rental is going for, how long it's sitting in your area. Well, that'll tell you. Well, if you can try to get a closing and push it out, say, hey, I don't want to close till February. Maybe they take that because you're the only person buying. Remember, what's the price in the market when something that's not being not liquid? Just like potentially this week with light volume week, it's whatever someone's willing to pay. All right. Talk to you guys and gals later. Be safe. Talk to you. Hit me up. Love y'all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.